Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC, DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent, License Lender, Broker Number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License Number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender, License Number 2011280L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with RNJ. I am Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we got a busy show. I mean, the Cowboys look like they don't know what they're doing with their head coaching situation. The Patriots hire a new head coach. We got the national championship game in college football, but we got to start with the best weekend of football, and that's the divisional round. That's the divisional round in the NFL. We got the divisional round this week. We start with a matchup in Kansas City between the two-time defending Super Bowl champions and the Houston Texans. Texans in the conference. Look, a lot of people think to get there, seeing the way they played in the second half of the season, but they got a win last week over the Chargers, so they're there, and then we got the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they're facing the Kansas City Chiefs, the two-time defending Super Bowl champions, and this is a rematch of a game in Week 16, which the Chiefs won over the Texans. And I think in this game, I do think Houston could stay in it early. I think they stay in it early. Their defense keeps them in it early. But by the second half, I think Kansas City pulls away here. I think they pull away. I think Patrick Mahomes has a really good game. I think he throws 2 or 3 touchdown passes. I think the Chiefs defense, just like they did in the first matchup, forces a turnover from C.J. Stroud. I think the Chiefs, as I said, it's close early, but in the second half, I think the Chiefs pull away and win this game by double digits. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Over the Texans. I think the Texans, yes, they made the playoffs, but they don't really all season long. They really didn't look like an improved team. And I know their defense played really well last week, but their offense really struggled in the first half. And if they get off to the start they did last week, there's no way they're beating the Chiefs this week. I'm going Kansas City here. It just doesn't look like Houston's really taking that next step. I think they're a good team, but we all thought this was my pick for the AFC Championship game in the preseason. Chiefs Texans. I thought the Texans would take the next step. The Texans have kind of stayed the same this year. They really haven't taken that next step. And I think they do the same thing as they do last year, lose the first game of the division round of the playoffs by double digits. I have the same thing this year. I got the Chiefs 28-17 over the Texans. But Justin, can the Texans get revenge from Week 16 and get to the conference championship game for the first time in team history?
No, I don't think they will either here. I got the Chiefs 23-13. Yeah, Houston was surprised by last week. I thought Chargers would get them, but I feel like that was more of Justin Herbert and the Chargers last week more than it was the Texans. But you did see, though, like when Stroud has time in the pocket and he's got the protection around him, he plays pretty well. We just haven't consistently seen it enough this year from that offensive line. And I think they could have a hard time in this one against Kansas City to protect Stroud long enough in this one. So I do think Kansas City's going to after him, get a couple sacks. And also, you know, it's an indoor team going outside where I think the feel like temperature is going to be like under 10 degrees. So that's another worry for me. And even with the layoff, I know Mahomes hasn't thrown a pass since Christmas, but it is Andy Reid. Like he's used to having, you know, the time, you know, he knows how to prepare a team for having a couple weeks, you know, for having a bye. And, you know, I think Mahomes in that offense, maybe it gets off to a slow start, but I think they'll get it going by the second half. And I think they're able to pull away from Houston.
And you talk about Andy Reid after a bye week. He's awesome. He's awesome after a bye week. And really, Reid Mahomes, since Mahomes has became the starter, they've never lost in the divisional round. They're 6-0 in the divisional round since Mahomes became the starter. So yeah, Andy Reid is awesome. He was this way. I know as a Giants fan, he was this way in Philly after bye weeks. He was awesome after bye weeks. Andy Reid with a week to prepare is awesome. And I just think that, yeah, Kansas City I think they should win. I think they should win it by double digits. Now, here's the one thing that could happen. Here's the one way Houston could win this game. Here's the one way Houston could win. What they have to do is they'd have to contain the running game of Kansas City. C. Stroud will have to play well, but here's the biggest thing. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter both have to have big games because we know the weakness of Kansas City for most of the year has been their tackle position. Now, it has gotten better since they moved Joe Tooney over to left tackle. Now, the interesting thing going into this game is DJ Humphries, because Tooney rested in week 18 because the Chiefs rested a bunch of their starters. DJ Humphries is healthy right now. And there's still talk that they might move Tooney back to guard and Humphries to left tackle. I don't know if that's the best idea for them, but because of the two edge rushers. So we'll see what happens there. But regardless of if that happens or not, I still think Kansas City wins the game by 2 scores.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Joe Tooney is one of the better. He's done a really nice job filling that left tackle spot. Really missed that guy in New England.
Oh yeah.
Really
Another good player that Bill let walk.
Yeah.
That's why he's at North Carolina, not in the NFL anymore.
Yeah, that was tough loss for them. They lost a couple years ago. Definitely still love to have him, but yeah, I think if the Texans can get after Mahomes and force him fumble or throw a pick, I think it's be huge for him because I think for Houston because they're so banged up to a wide receiver and obviously they just waived Deontay Johnson and they're so banged up at the wide receiver spot and even at tight end that they're really gonna have to rely on running football and if you get behind early and or even if you get up early on in that game, try to control the clock there and keep Mahomes out of offense off the field. So, if Houston if Joe Mixon could have a huge game on the ground and be able to control the clock, keep Chiefs offense off the field, I think Houston as well. It's another kind of way that they could try to get out of Arrowhead with a win.
Yeah, you talked about Joe Mixon, but the Chiefs are good against the run. You got Chris Jones, you got Nick Bolton in the middle. They're good against the run. They contain the run game in the first matchup. But yeah, you're right. That's definitely going to be something. If Houston wants to win this game, they're definitely going to have to run the ball and control the clock and keep Mahomes off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have to, and they're just so banged up to a wide receiver and tight end that their secondary is so good that I don't know if I trust any of these Texan guys to be able to get open and be able to make some big plays on the field because Kansas City secondary has been so good. And again, credit to that organization because for all the money they're paying Mahomes and all that, like and I know they had to let him walk because they couldn't pay him, but man, they've hit on every draft pick pretty much. And, that's what you have to do when you're paying your quarterback a ton of money. And they've done it really, really well. So, yeah, for the Chiefs or for the Texans, it's going to be can they run the football enough? And I'm with you. I don't think they're able to do that in this game.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. The Chiefs have hit on their draft picks, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's been at every position on that every level of that defense. George Karlaftis, Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie. They've hit on all those picks, and that has been huge. That's been a reason why they kept this thing going. I mean, that's a reason why they won that. That was a big reason why they won that Super Bowl last year. They held Lamar to 10 points. They held the Niners to 19 points in regulation. That's a big reason why they won that Super Bowl last year, and that's a really big reason why we went 15-2. I know Mahomes is still a top quarterback in the league. I know they have a pretty good offense, but a big reason why they won a lot of those close games was because of their defense.
Yeah, it was because again they found a way pretty much to win every one-score game, which is usually pretty impossible, and at some points, that's going to cost you at some point, and you're going to lose one of those games. But yeah, their defense made a lot of stops this year, and when they've needed it and they've made the big stops when you feel like Kansas City's on the brink of losing this game, their defense comes up and makes a big play this year. So yeah, credit to that whole front office. Spags done a great job at that defense because man, 3-4 years ago, that defense couldn't make a stop in the game, and now they're you mentioned it, they're the big reason why they're 15-2 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we move on to the second game on Saturday, the Saturday night game in Detroit between the Commanders and the Lions. How about Jaden Daniels? When the game was on the line, he stepped up again for the 5th time this year. It all started, week 2 against the Giants, and you had the Hail Mary game against the Bears. You had the come from behind win against the Eagles, the overtime win against the Falcons, and then he did it again on Sunday night against the Bucks. Driving his team down the field and winning the game, and he gets his team to Detroit to face the Lions. But here's the thing in this game for me, and why I think the Lions win this, and why I think the Lions win this by 2 scores. The Lions run the ball well. They're going to get David Montgomery back. You got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in that backfield. And you have a Washington team, and their biggest weakness this year has been their run defense. I know Bobby Wagner's been a good addition in the middle, but up front, especially on the defensive line, they have a very hard time stopping the run. I think they're going to get whooped up front. I think in the run game, Detroit's offensive line is going to whoop Washington's defensive line. I think that's going to be the game. And I think Washington's going to run for at least 150 yards. No, I mean Detroit is going to run for at least 150 yards in this game with David Montgomery and with Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think it's going to be a big day for Jared Goff. I think there was 3 or 4 touchdown passes. This is the best offensive football. I think they prove it in this game. I think they put up over 30 points. I got them putting up like 35 points in this game. And I think Washington, I think they'll move the ball. I think Jaden will move the ball. But I think he'll turn the ball over a couple of times. I think that will hurt them. I'm going Lions here. I got the Lions returning to the conference championship game. I got them winning this one 35-20 over the Commanders. But Justin, can the Commanders, Dan Daniels and the Commanders, keep their dream season alive and get to the conference title game for the first time since 1991?
No, I'm with you here. I got the Lions as well, 27-21. I just, as you mentioned, I don't think Washington's gonna be able to stop the running game, and I think that's gonna be a big difference this one. Now, both coaches are very aggressive, especially on 4th down. So, could Washington maybe win the battle on 4th down, and maybe go 4 for 4? Detroit goes like 1 for 4, and that's how maybe Washington finds a way to win this game. But I don't expect many punts. But again, what coach maybe is a bit too aggressive in this one and maybe cost their team a victory. But yeah, another way I could see Washington win this game is, can they get Goff to, or even the Lions offense to turn the ball over once or twice and steal a possession or 2. I think it's another way they can win this game, but it's going to be very tough because I just don't see Washington's defense making enough stops in this one. Daniels, I think, could have a pretty good game with his legs. That's been kind of one of the weaknesses from Detroit. They've given up some big yardage to quarterbacks who can take off and run, but I just don't think Washington's gonna be able to outscore Detroit in this one.
Yeah, you do, but you do have Washington holding Detroit to under 30 points.
Yeah, because I do think like Washington in this one, like they did last week, where they had that, what was it, 14 play, 92 yards, and they took off like 8 minutes. Like I think Washington is going to try to control the clock and try to limit the possession to this one. So I think that's why, but I just don't think that they'll still be able to outscore this Detroit offense here. So I do think they try to slow the game down. I just don't think they're able to do it enough.
Yeah, I think so too. And listen, Washington's had a great year. Washington's they've gotten everything they could out of this season. They got their franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels. They won a playoff game. Dan Quinn has changed the culture. Adam Peters. Here's the difference between Adam Peters and Elliott Wolf. Adam Peters actually improved this team in the offseason. Didn't sign a bunch of guys from a 4-13 team. He actually improved this team, getting a Bobby Wagner, a Frankie Louvu to make the defense better. You got a Tyler Biadasz and a Nick Allegretti to make the offensive line better. Adam Peters in year 1 used that cap space to improve this team, and I think he'll continue to do that in the offseason. But I just think in this game, I think defensively Washington's going to have some problems. I think they are. Yes, their defense was improved from a year ago when it was one of the worst in football, but the Washington fans will say, oh, yeah, we might be able to stop the run. Jonathan Allen's back. Yeah, well, Jonathan Allen hasn't been good at stopping the run this year. And they might say, oh, yeah, we got Marshawn Lattimore on defense. Well, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans had his way with Marshawn Lattimore last week. So I just think Washington's defense is going to struggle here. That's why I think they're going to lose this game by 2 scores and give up over 30 points. But but the Commanders are in a great place right now. And I hate to say that as a Giants fan, my team's going to have to face Jaden Daniels twice a year now. So the Commanders, yeah, I think their season ends on Saturday, but still, it came a long way from where they were last year.
It absolutely did. And yeah, it's been one of the worst organizations, definitely in that fall, but probably all of sports for the last 20 or so years. And they've had a couple bright spots, but like RG3 that rookie year, and then he goes down with a knee injury, and that pretty much, destroyed his career because he was never the same after that. And so it definitely feels different this time watching, Peters, even the new front office or that new ownership. They've really done a great job of changing the culture too, along with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels coming in, and they finally seem like they have their franchise guy. Cliff Kingsbury's done a really nice job at OC. I didn't really know what to expect from Dan Quinn this year, but he's done a really nice job as head coach of the team. And it's, you being a Giant fan, it's going to be tough, and you got to hope Dallas really screws up the next head coach there, and you guys can get get out of the
we'll
basement
get to
for
them.
them.
We'll get to them. Yeah. Things do not look good. Things do not look good for the Cowboys, but we'll get to them. But we'll stay in the NFC, and we got a matchup between the Rams and the Eagles, a rematch of Week 12's game where Saquon Barkley went wild against the Rams, ran for 255 yards. He was awesome in that game. The Eagles won that game 37-20. But the Eagles, Jalen, last week their offense did not look that good. They didn't look that good. I mean, they benefited from that short field against the Packers, but really outside of that, I know they had that scoring drive after the Packers kicked the field goal, but a big reason why they won the game is because the Packers just weren't good at all. I mean, the fumble on the kickoff, even though you could argue if that was a fumble or not, still there was a fumble on the kickoff. The offense of the Packers. I mean, Jordan Love was off pretty much most of the game. The Packers did not have a good day against the Eagles, but and then you look at the Rams in their first round matchup against with the Rams against the Vikings. Their defensive line, 9 sacks. Sam Darnold reverted back to his old ways. Offense still was pretty good, but here's the thing about the Ram offense is they really haven't gotten over 20 points really since that Bills game. And they're going to go into Philadelphia where it's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. They're not used to those elements. I know Stafford is still a really good quarterback. They still have really good weapons on offense. But I think in this game, I think the Rams will do a better job with Barkley. But I think Barkley's going to definitely go for over 100 yards. I think the Eagles will move the ball. Yeah, they might not score touchdowns if they get in the red zone, but I think they'll move the ball. But I think they'll force a turnover or two from Stafford. I think the game comes down to I think it's a closer game though. It comes down to the end, where the Eagles defense makes a play. I think they make a play. I think it's a game, in the high 20s, high teens, low 20s. I think it's a close, competitive game. But I'm going to go with the Eagles to sweep them here. I hate to say this, but I got the Eagles heading to the NFC Championship game against the Lions. I got them heading to Detroit on January 26th. I got the Eagles beating the Rams 23-16. But Justin, can the Rams get revenge from Week 12 and get to the conference title game for the third time in 7 years?
No, I agree with you here as well. I got the Eagles 23-20. I think it's possible. I do think the Rams are going to do a better job of trying to slow down Saquon Barkley here, and he's not going to. First meeting, he had a 75-yard rushing touchdown, and I believe it was a 70-yard rushing touchdown. But the Rams, again, replacing Aaron Donald, they did a really great job of. Again, you're never going to replace Aaron Donald, but they replaced him with Jared Verse coming in this year. Fisk coming in as well. Like
the two Florida State guys who were really good picks.
Yeah, they were. They nailed it, and they're another team that had to nail it. For all the draft picks they gave up to get that Super Bowl, and all those contracts. So the Rams did a really nice job of replacing with a couple guys there, and again getting 9 sacks last week. Was really impressive there, and they really shut down the Vikings defense. So I do think if the Rams could kind of do the same thing, because Jalen Hurts looked rusty last week, and AJ Brown was not very involved. And could they keep him not involved this week? I think would be huge for him. So I think Stafford and Coke in that offense can put up some points in this one, but I do think the Eagles defense plays well, and I do think the Eagles find a way to get a stop late in the game and win the football game.
Yeah, Eagles defense has played great. And, some people who think the Rams are going to, who are down in the Eagles are going to say, oh, Nakobe Dean's out. Well, Zach Bond has played really well, too. He was an all-pro. The Eagles developed him into an all-pro. So, yeah, the Eagles defense is one of the top. This is, I think, the best roster going forward is the Eagles. Like, I think Jalen Hurts is the one quarterback that doesn't have to be great, and the Eagles could still win the Super Bowl because of their roster, because they got a top defense. They got a good offensive line. Great skill guys around him with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. The Eagles are the one team, to me, that could get away with their quarterback not playing great and can still win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe Goff But
I don't know though.
how
Because
healthy are they in defense?
but that's defense. That defense is not. That
Yeah,
defense is still shaky. And if when they get into the Super Bowl, I think any of those three teams, the Chiefs, the Ravens, or the Bills, are going to put up points against them.
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, no, it's a yeah, I agree. So yeah, because Hurts was I shouldn't say awful. He wasn't great. They were very rusty. But again, Barkley could kind of carry you, and he could be able to do that again this week. And he's been outstanding all season long for him. So yeah, the Eagles in that passing game, I think they're 30th in the regular season this year in passing yards per game. Like it was nothing spectacular, and they do have the weapons. Um, but yeah, I just think the Rams coming, you know, used to coming to a cold environment. Even though I know they came to the Jets and they found a way to win that one. I think even when they played New England, it was a rainy, kind of coldish day. But they had to pull away late. They needed an interception there to kind of close out the game. So I think for the Eagles, they do find a way here at home because their roster's been pretty good. Their defense has gotten better throughout the year, and and you mentioned the Kobe Dean loss, and he's missed a lot of time. Like he even missed a lot of time at Georgia, so he's been somebody too that the Eagles have been pretty kind of used to not having him available at times. So I do think the Eagles find a way here to pull this one out at home and get back to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think so too. But talking about the Rams a little bit, I mean, they've done a nice job. They've done a really nice job, and I think they did a really nice job on offense. Drafting Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. But here's what's kept them competitive. Here's what's real, and I think a big reason why they're in the spot they're in is because of the way they drafted with the defensive line. As we said earlier, with Jared Verse, with Kobe Turner, and with Brendan Fisk. And Byron Young isn't bad either. So the way they've drafted in this defensive line has definitely helped make up the loss of Aaron Donald.
Yeah, definitely. It's in the movie Moneyball when Billy Bean said, we're never going to place Jason Yampi one player. We have to find like a couple players that could add up, and that's kind of what they've done with Verts and Fisk on the defensive line. They've been able to kind of find it because Aaron Donald's one of the best defensive linemen of all time, and that's such a big loss. But they've really done a good job of negating that and trying to close that hole as much as they could, and they've done a really good job of that. So yeah, it's been they've done a really nice drafting and. I think it was that Thursday night game before the Vikings. It was kind of like, man, if they lose this game, maybe they ship out a Cooper Kupp. There was maybe talks of maybe do they trade a Matthew Stafford, and look where they are now. They've been playing really well down the stretch, and McVay's done a really nice job of that team. Because I know they were banged up early on this year, so they've done a really nice job here of kind of retooling things after that Super Bowl run where it looked like they might go in a rebuild here for a couple years. That really hasn't been the case.
It definitely is not. It definitely is not. Sean McVay, 7 years as a head coach. 8 years as the Rams head coach. Six playoff appearances. Shows you why he's one of the top coaches in the league with Andy Reid. It shows you why, because 6 playoff appearances, 7 winning seasons, 6 playoff appearances. That's what Sean McVay and a Super Bowl championship and 2 Super Bowl appearances. So that is why Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the NFL. But we will wrap up talking about divisional round weekend, talking about the Ravens and the Bills. This is the game of the week between these two teams. Now, the game was not good on Sunday Night Football when they played in Week 4. Derrick Henry had a huge game, rush for 200 yards. I mean, the Ravens won 35-10. The Bills really couldn't do anything on offense. I mean, the Ravens defense completely shut down James Cook. And listen, like if you look at the way these teams match up with each other, I mean, really, the Ravens definitely this looks like a great matchup for the Ravens. I mean, the Bills, their strength in their offense is their run. I know Josh Allen's been great, but James Cook has been really good as well. James Cook has turned into a really good running back for this team. So the Bills, they run the ball really well. Ravens, number 1 run defense. The Ravens, the Ravens run the ball. They're one of the best running. They're the best running team in football. The Bills, they're average against the run, as you saw in Week 4 when Derrick Henry ran all over them. So this looks like a really, really good matchup for the Ravens, but. And I know there's a reason. They're a 1-point favorite in this game. Seeing the way they've won games, seeing the way that since the bye week they've won their last 5 games all by 2 scores. So I mean, it looks like a really good matchup for the Ravens. But for some reason here, I think the Bills get over the hump. I think the Bills win this game. They've lost 3 straight years in the divisional round. I think they win this one. And I think a big reason why is Zay Flowers is questionable. I think the Bills with Zay Flowers out will be able to focus more of their attention on Derrick Henry. So I don't think Henry has a huge game here. I think the Bills contain Henry. I think they force a turnover. I think they force a turnover from Lamar, And I think Josh Allen at home outplays Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen outplays Lamar Jackson. I think James Cook is not going to have a great game, but I think Josh Allen has a great game here. I think Josh Allen proves why I will get to the MVP thing, but I think he proves why I think he's the second best quarterback in the league. And I think he has a big game on the ground and with his legs. I think it's a great game on both sides. I think both quarterbacks play great. I think this is going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a classic. And I think the team with the ball last is going to win it. I think it's going to be a classic. It's going to be a high-scoring game, and the team with the ball last wins. And I think that team is going to be the Bills. And I think the Bills are going to get to the conference title game for the first time since 2020. Ironically, they'll be going back to Kansas City. I got the Bills here. I got the Bills 30-27 over the Ravens. But Justin, can the Ravens sweep the Bills and get to the conference championship game for the second year in a row? Set up a rematch with Kansas City.
Yeah, I do have Baltimore win this one 20-24. I think Baltimore does get it going, or does get the win here on the road. Both teams have playing really well down the stretch. Both defenses have gotten better. Like I know the Bills, Milano coming back last week at the linebackers, or not last week. He's been back for a couple games now, and the Bills defense is starting to get a little bit healthier. But I think Lamar, kind of with his legs, I think could be a huge difference in this one. And it's also a game where I just I shouldn't. Before the year, I didn't really know what to expect of the Bills. Like they've kind of been at this moment, and it kind of felt like maybe the door's closing a little bit on the Super Bowl run. It hasn't, but like I just don't. I don't really trust either of these two coaches, but I trust Harbaugh. I think a little bit more than I do McDermott, just because it's like every time they get to this moment, you finally think the Bills are going to go over the hump. They just find a way to not come up with a victory, and I could just see it yet again in this one. Josh Allen's been unbelievable this year. He's been unbelievable his career trying to turn the Bills around, but every time the Bills just find a way to not get over the hump when you think it's finally their chance, and I just think it's going to happen again. I just need to see it from them first, and I think the Ravens here with Lamar, I think they get over the hump and get back to the AFC Championship game.
And you talked about Sean McDermott. This leads me to my next question. How much pressure is on Sean McDermott at this point? He's 6-6 in the postseason. He loses. He has an under 500 record in the playoffs. He loses. He's an under 500 record. He loses this game. Fourth year in a row, he loses in the divisional round. And with a top quarterback in Josh Allen, he would have never gotten to a Super Bowl with a top. He would still not have gotten to a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. He would get to if the Bills lose this game, he would get to the conference championship game one time with Josh Allen. He's had elite quarterback play for 5 years, and he would only get there one time even to the conference championship game one time. So the question is, how much pressure is on McDermott? I still think even if they lose this, they retain him because really, you look at the other. I think he's the best option they have going forward, unless. We know I think you know where I'm going here. They have that Belichick and North Carolina have that buyout, and he becomes the coach. That could be a story if the Bills lose this game. But I do think the Bills retain him even if they lose, even though it would be 4 consecutive losses in the divisional round.
Yeah, hey, if it was Bill, Vrabel's got the upper hand, I think, over Bill so far in their young coaching career. So, we could Bill versus Vrabel twice a year. Could be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is definitely pressure on it, but I think you're right. Like, I don't think there's a better candidate because, yeah, you could say Ben Johnson, but it's like, it is still a mystery. Like, he would be a first-time head coach. We have no idea. Like, he could just be one of these guys that just being with Dan Campbell probably has to help you be a good leader of men, but like, that's not certain. So, yeah, I agree. Just because we're in this part, like, I don't think you'd hire McCarthy just to fire McDermott, or any of these other retreads. So, yeah, he'd probably be safe, but I definitely think there should be pressure because, I know with the Bengals, Zach Taylor's still there, but like if the Bengals just don't start out slow the month of September, they're going to be always right there. You got Lamar and Baltimore, obviously Kansas City, and read them home. So, and you would think the Chargers are going to get better with Harbaugh. So, like, I don't think the AFC is going to get any easier here for the Bills. So, I do think there's some pressure on them, but I just think you're at this stage. There's not going to be a better candidate out there to replace McDermott with.
Yeah, I think he's going to come back. I think McDermott is going. It's going to be. Even if they lose, I think McDermott is going to be back. Now, It's tough. It's hard to agree with it, but it's just there's just really no one else that much better. But again, the question's always going to be with the Bills if they lose. How long are they going to keep running it back with McDermott? How long are they going to keep doing this and not get to a Super Bowl with a quarterback that should absolutely be in a Super Bowl? Because you could argue that game in 2021, it was not Josh Allen. McDermott blew that game in 21, not squib kicking and kicking it deep and then letting the Chiefs drive down the field to tie that game with 13 seconds left.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of seems like it's broken the Bills a little bit, and yeah, they haven't been able to get over the hump since then. And even that one, because I felt like they had them beat, and um, yeah, did not squib kick that one. That's still one of the biggest mysteries out there of why they did not do that. And yeah, it cost them, and they had that game won. And yeah, that's not been on Allen. And most of their playoffs loss feels like it hasn't been on Allen. Like they, haven't been able to make the stop late in a game, or they just haven't. They are built better this year to run the football than they have, which is going to help because I think there's a chance for snow in this one, and obviously it's going to be cold. So like, I think they are better situated this year than they have been in the past with being able to run the football because they always felt like they were like a more of a dome team where, hey,
They
we're
were
going to be a high flying offense.
especially when Dayball was there.
Yeah,
Well,
especially and like,
but I do think since they got James Cook, they've been more of a running team.
yeah, absolutely, and that's what you need playing up in Buffalo, where you get to this time of year, it's not going to be pretty weather, and and there's only certain you're going to get, to a dome team in the playoffs, and where it's going to be bad weather. So yeah, I think the Bills are better situated this year, but be able to run the football and it's going to help them, for times like this in a game like this. But yeah, so I do think that's going to help me there. But yeah, it hasn't really been all on Josh Allen why they haven't been able to over the hump the divisional playoffs around the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's part of it's on Allen. That game. I mean, the game in 2021 wasn't, but the 2022 game I'd put on him. I think he was had responsibility. He was responsible in that one. And then last year there was a part of it. The defense too, but part of it he was responsible for. But speaking of Josh Allen, we pretty much a lot of talk has been about the MVP between Allen and Lamar Jackson, and the big question is who should be the MVP? These two guys are the two leading candidates for MVP. Who should be the MVP? Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen? I'm going to say Josh Allen. I'm going to say Josh Allen because Josh Allen lost Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen does not have it's Amari Cooper. They traded for Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper has not been great since he's been there. He really hasn't been. He hasn't had a game where he's had over 100 yards receiving, so he hasn't been great since he's been there. Yeah, I know he's got a good O-line and a run game, but I think Allen has actually done more with less than Lamar has. Because before the season, a lot of us were picking the Ravens to be better than the Bills. A lot of us thought when the Ravens got Derrick Henry, they were going to be the biggest threat to the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and they still very easily could be because they could definitely beat the Bills this week in Buffalo. But I think Josh Allen has done more with less. And look at the teams. Look at how hot the Bills have been since they started 2-2, and look at some of the games they won. I mean, the Chiefs were undefeated. Bills beat them. Allen and the Bills beat them. The Lions, they were playing great. They had won like 10 or 11 in a row. Guess what happened? Allen went in there, was great, and beat them. And then if you look at even the game Allen lost in this stretch to the Rams, he had 6 total touchdowns in the game. So, and then if you look at Lamar's had a great year. He's a historic making season. Having over 4,000 passing yards and 800 rushing yards. I mean, he's had a historic season. No one in the air and the ground has done what Lamar has done statistically. But look at some of the losses. Up by 10 in the fourth quarter against the Raiders. Lost that game. Lost to the Browns. I know definitely part of that is on the defense, but part of that is on Lamar for not scoring in the fourth quarter against the Raiders and not coming through in that game-winning drive against the Browns. And then you look at some of the other losses too. Steelers lost, scored 16 points. I know they got their revenge with the Steelers and everything, beating them late in the year and in the playoffs. But then against the Eagles, pretty much only putting up 12 points because that last touchdown was in garbage time. So even though Lamar has been better statistically, I think Allen has done more with less. Because a lot of people before the season were saying, the Dolphins might end up winning the AFC East, and the Bills were clearly the best team in the AFC East. And the biggest reason why is because of Josh Allen. I think Allen has done more than less. That's why he is my MVP.
I'm gonna go the other way here and go with Lamar Jackson. And one of the reasons why you didn't mention it, he's the first quarterback ever to throw for over 4,000 yards and rush for over 800. Like that's unprecedented. Another one is the AFC East, where the Bills, where they had that thing clinched in September, where the Ravens down the stretch got to play for that division, you know, where they're playing against, good teams down the stretch, battle for the division, like the Steelers, like the Bengals. Um, and I know with Lamar, it's kind of been, he's already won a couple. Can he get to the big one? But obviously it's regular season award. But I think, Lamar's numbers, and I think early on too, like, I know you mentioned like the Browns game, that Raider game, like their defense wasn't great. Now that the defense has kind of figured it out, um, they've been a lot better and they've played better down the stretch here. And I know he's got decent like Isaiah Likely's been a very nice tight end. Mark Andrews, I know there's been, he's kind of quiet the first half of the year. And Derrick Henry's made a huge impact too, where he only Jackson only had, I think, 4 or 5 rush touchdowns on the year. He didn't have as many as he usually does, and I think Henry's been a huge help too on that offense to get it to like another gear. But I just think with the unprecedented numbers Lamar put up in a really good division like the AFC North, I do think he should get it over Josh Allen, but it's just by a hair.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll have this conversation when we'll be definitely still continuing to have this conversation when the award gets announced, who should have won or who shouldn't. But yeah, it's very close between the two. They've had awesome seasons. They're both top three, top four quarterbacks in the league. But I would just go with Josh Allen because I feel like he has done more with less. But it should be interesting. It should be a great matchup on Sunday. I mean, this is definitely the best game of the weekend. Seeing these two quarterbacks go at it.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a fun game Sunday evening. And yeah, both two of the best quarterbacks out there. And again, maybe, one of these, two coaches that would love to get this victory, because I know for what happened with Harbaugh last year in the AFC Championship game, and they need for the Bills to get over that hump again and get another crack at more than likely Kansas City here. So yeah, it should be exciting with two of the better offenses out there. So yeah, it should be a fun one Sunday.
It definitely should be. So we will get to some league news, and we got to talk about the Patriots. And I am hiring on Sunday afternoon. They did it. They fired Gerard last Sunday. Then they hired Mike Vrabel as their head coach, and I really like I obviously really like this hire. Number one, he's got experience and he got experience. I mean, he won two playoff games, the AFC Championship game, was the number one seed. He did all that with Ryan Tannehill as his quarterbacks. And I know it fell apart at the end in Tennessee. But let's be honest, he's not the one who traded AJ Brown. That was stupid. That was stupid, and couldn't replace and John Robinson couldn't replace him. That's why he's out. He got fired and has not been a GM again. That AJ Brown trade did not make Mike Vrabel happy. And then the quarterback. I mean, Ryan Tannehill got old. Will Levis was up and down when he was there. So I really like this hire. I really did. And things that stood out to me in the press conference, we got to get to work. He's honest. We got to get to work. We're not a good team. We got to get to work. And he said a good thing about culture. He said when the chips are down, that's when you know the true character of this team. And he's going to know the true character of this team because the Patriots have hit rock bottom. The Patriots have hit rock bottom, and they need to be brought back up. And things are not good right now for the Patriots, but the positive with this team is it looks like they have a franchise quarterback, and it looks like they have, and we know they do have a good head coach in Mike Vrabel. So this team's got to be left up. So Mike Vrabel said he's realistic. He knows that the chips are down right now. So he knows he's got to build this thing back up. And he also talked about how important the offensive line is, and how he wants this team to prioritize on that. On the offensive line, he knows how bad it was. It was the worst offensive line in football last year. He knows how bad it was. How bad it was. So he definitely wants them to prioritize on that. And he also, another thing which I took away from that is how much he talked about Elliott Wolf. He talked about Elliott Wolf a lot. I'll get to that when we'll get to that. What our opinion is there, but those were my takeaways from the hire of Vrabel and the press conference on Monday. My takeaways from Vrabel's press conference on Monday.
Yeah, the Vrabel hire was great. There's only one one direction to go now, and that's up, because it can't get any worse than it has under Mayo last year, and how it ended, unfortunately, with Bill. But yeah, I think with Vrabel is a great hire who knows this locker room or knows this organization. He knows the crafts. He knows what it takes to win in New England. He knows what it looks like to win in New England. He's gonna have the respect in those guys in the locker room. Yeah, some of the takeaways from that press conference is, a lot of the LA Wolves stuff. I know we're gonna get to it, but yeah, it's about it was a lot of about building, and I think he understands how, where you have the quarterback in place, but there's a lack of talent pretty much everywhere besides the cornerback and quarterback, and then you got Christian Gonzalez. That's about your 2 billion blocks that you have right now, and the rest of it, And again, it's just for me too. It's the culture too of, again, guys are not going to be riding around bicycles in the middle of that locker
No
room.
way.
Like that's
No way.
that's
No
all
way.
gone.
No way. Not
They're
at all.
not. Yeah. And our head coach after loss is not going to be sitting playing cards with the players in the back of the plane. Why
No.
the assistant
No.
coach is the one watching film.
No. No. Exactly.
So yeah, things are going to change, which is great. So yeah, I'm excited to have Variable. This is the guy I wanted, and that's just who I wanted last year. But obviously, I'm glad Kraft understood the mistake that he made and got rid of it, quickly, and that's what he had to do, and that's what I was happy about. So I'm excited to have Vrabel and excited to see what he brings in, because going to LA Wolf and telling the fan base last summer that we had had a good offensive line going in, which was just a total slap in the face of the fan base, because I think everybody did not believe that comment, but
Exactly.
tried to make it out to it.
Exactly. And we talked about Kraft's mistake with Gerard Mayo. Now, there potentially is still a mistake in the building in Elliott Wolf. And the big question is now with Vrabel's hire and with them bringing Ryan Cowden in, who was with Vrabel in Tennessee as one of his personnel guys. What is the future for Elliott Wolf? I know, Vrabel looks like he's going to be collaborative and work with Elliott Wolf, but I think all of that is BS. I think Elliott Wolf is going to be gone. I think he's going to be gone after the draft, and Cowden is going to be elevated to the general manager in late April. I think Elliott Wolf is going to be gone. Seeing what Elliott Wolf did last year with bringing a bunch of guys back from a 4-13 team, he never improved it. I think Kraft admitted a mistake with Gerard Mayo. I think he's ready. I think he's ready to admit another mistake in Elliott Wolf. I think he's going to be gone. I don't think he's going to be the GM after the draft. I think Ryan Cowden will be the general manager after the draft. I think I don't think they're firing Wolf because there's his own. He's got his own scouting department and his own guys. I think they want to keep them around. But I think that Ryan Cowden and Mike Vrabel are going to be big in this draft and even have a lot of input into free agency. I think Elliott Wolf is gone after this draft.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think that's kind of what's going to happen as well here. Because I think they're going back, because I think one of the things in the National Football League is still like the dictatorship still kind of work. Like instead, because like these collaborations don't seem to pan out for a lot of teams. Like, and I think Vrabel's going to have final say, which I think is going to happen here. And I know he mentioned a lot about Elliott Wolf and all that, but I think Vrabel's going to have. Vrabel kind of took the we got to find good players. We got to sign good players. And all that. And so I don't think Wolf's going to be around. And I think, even at the draft, till he sticks around to the draft, more than likely, it's going to be Vrabel's say. It's not, Wolf's not going to have a big say in the war room during the draft. So I'm with you. I think Wolf is going to have to listen to Vrabel, and Vrabel is going to have final say, which I'm fine with, because again, we talked about the offensive line. Outside of May, not a great draft class, and we've mentioned a lot. They ripped Bill to shreds, but they signed all of his players back for whatever reason. So it was not a great offseason for him. And again, I don't like. It's tough to give him credit for Drake May, because Drake May fell in his lap. So
exactly.
So I can't give him too much credit for that. So we'll see. But I agree. I think Wolf's probably be gone after the draft.
Yeah, and if somehow he gets retained further than that, and they're like a 4 or 5 win team, he is gone he won't last a year. He will not last a year. So if they're not in contention late in December, Elliott Wolf won't last a year if he gets retained after the draft. So I don't think I think his time in New England's coming to an end. We'll see what ends up happening there. But the other interesting thing is who's going to be the offensive coordinator, because I think Vrabel is more of a defensive coach. He was a linebacker. He was a defensive coordinator in Houston before he got the job in Tennessee. I think the big question is who's going to be the offensive coordinator. I think it's going to be down to 2 guys. It's going to be down to Josh McDaniels, who Patriot fans know very well, and another guy, Tim Kelly, who was the OC in Tennessee when he got fired when he got with the OC his last year in Tennessee before him and Vrabel got fired, and was the tight ends coach for the Giants last year. So I think it's going to be down to the two guys, Josh McDaniels and Tim Kelly. But I think Josh McDaniels should come back and be the offensive coordinator.
I agree. I think McDaniels is going to be the guy. I think he interviewed Monday, so I don't know where they're at right now with the interview process. But yeah, I think it's going to be McDaniels. The understanding that he has, again, he already has that familiarity with the crafts, and he's a guy too that he's going to be around for a while because I don't think there's any chance that he gets a third opportunity to be an NFL head coach. Where Tim Kelly, maybe like if Drake May has a huge year, he's somebody that would get an offensive, an NFL job next offseason where McDaniels, he's probably not going to get that because I don't want, because I do like Tim Kelly. I think he did a really nice job there down at Tennessee, but like I don't want him to take off next season and then Drake May working as his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. Like I'd rather have some continuity, and I think McDaniels would be here for a while. So, or as long as Vrabel's here. So, I think McDaniel's going to get it, and that's kind of the guy I want as well.
Yeah, I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense for McDaniels, just like Vrabel, to come back to New England and be the offensive coordinator. But before we get to the national championship game in college football, we got to talk about the Cowboys. I waited 45 minutes into the show to talk about the Cowboys because this organization does not deserve the attention. Teams like playoff teams deserve the attention. Even the Patriots for making a good move hiring Vrabel, they deserve more attention than this team. If you're going to fire, I know, he was on the hot seat all year, but if you're going to fire him, why wait a week? Block an interview request from the Bears, so they wait a week. They block an interview request from the Bears, then they fire him. There's just no plan. There's no plan with Jerry Jones right now. Jerry Jones, I'm gonna tell you, the Cowboys are in a really bad spot because they're gonna have three huge contracts with Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons potentially, and CeeDee Lamb. They're in a terrible spot, and they're clearly the third best team in the division, and there's no debate about it. And Jerry Jones still thinks he could be a general manager, and the team could win a Super Bowl, which they're not even. Let's be honest, they're not even close to doing that. So, who's going to want this job? Listen, was McCarthy the right guy? Was he not? That's debatable, but the way they did it was absolutely terrible. It was the same thing they did in the offseason, not waiting to pay CD and waiting to pay Dak Prescott and not being able to make any moves in free agency. Jerry Jones right now, the only way, and I've said this, I know I'm a broken record saying this, the only way the Cowboys win a Super Bowl is if this guy stepped down as the GM. Yes, he's not horrible. They draft well, but hiring coaches, free agency, and trades are an absolute disaster for the franchise.
Yeah, they are. This was definitely surprising because, like if you blocked them from being the Bears job or interviewing for the Bears job last week, and then if you've done it last week too, you have your pick of the litter, which now you're not going to get, like, maybe you could have got a Ben Johnson to come down here. I don't think Ben Johnson's on the table now. So like, who are you going to get? I know we'll get to maybe one of their candidates coming in a second here, but this organization is such a mess. And I don't know if you heard what Micah Parsons said too. He was not happy about the firing, and he said, it's gonna be a full reset too coming. You might have just, maybe now Parsons doesn't resign. Maybe, who knows?
I think Jerry's just gonna give him what he wants, and I think he's gonna resign. But no, it may be smart for Mike just to say, "Get me out of here," because this. I'm not winning anything. I'm not winning anything here.
Yeah, you're not, and and the other thing I took away from Parsons saying that is McCarthy Dial is an offensive guy, and that's a defensive guy saying that as well there. So, it's just a total mess down in Dallas. It's been that for years and then I heard Troy Aikman eviscerated saying this is not a great job.
Not a coveted job, and he's 100% right about it. It's not a coveted job. They haven't been to a conference championship game in 30 years. It's not a coveted job.
Yeah, I don't know what their relationship's like, Aikman and Jones, but I don't know if Jerry's going to be too happy with him after that, but he is right. And that's coming from one of the best Cowboys of all time. And he's saying those words. So, it's a total mess down in Dallas. And the way they kind of ended there with McCarthy was very surprising. And it's just a Dallas thing. They like to be in the news. They like to be front center. And they want to make the dramatic scenes. And that's exactly what they did here because it's not totally surprising they let him go, but it's just the timing of it. Why wait the extra
a
week when
week.
you could have got ahead
Yeah,
of this?
yeah. Oh, wait a week. And the Cowboys are just they're a team that would rather make headlines and be in the news and get attention than win championships. And that's the sad part of the organization. You feel bad for a quarterback like Dak Prescott. If he's in a better organization, he might win a championship. I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl, but he ain't doing it in this organization. That's for sure.
No, he's not. It's going to be the same story, and even when Stephen Jones takes over, it's going to be the same thing, and it's going to
Yeah.
be a revolving door for the Cowboys. And yeah, unfortunately, the fan base, it's going to take a while. And hey, maybe 1 year they just have such a dominant team that they've drafted, and they sign the right guys that maybe they go over the hump 1 year. But right now, it's not happening anytime soon, unfortunately, for that fan base.
Yeah, and we got to talk about one potential Cowboy candidate, and that's Deion Sanders. And yes, he's talked to Jerry on Monday after the firing. He talked to Jerry on Monday, but it would be stupid for him to leave Boulder after now he's got a 5-star coming in. He's built a pretty good program. Almost got that Colorado team to Jerry World for the Big 12 championship game after they were 1-11 when he took over. So I think yes, there's a lot of news. Deion to the Cowboys. I don't think I know Deion played for Jerry. He won a Super Bowl for Jerry, but I just don't think that would work. I don't think it would work. I think you'd be better off staying at Colorado.
Yeah, I think he's getting 5 million at Colorado, so he could probably get close to double. I know it's Dion; he probably has all the money in the world, but that is something. Um, and I guess yeah, in the Big 12 too, like between 3 through 12 in that league, there's not much of a difference. So you could win that league very easily, or you could lose a couple games and or a couple close games of very evenly matched teams, and you could finish ninth. Like that, that league's gonna be very chaotic in a couple years. But yeah, I because if you get Dion two, that means you have to trade up or trade for Shador.
Exactly. Yeah.
In
And then you have to deal with Dak's cap hit. You're gonna have to trade. It'd be
yeah.
a mess. It'd be a mess. It would be a mess for. I think it'd be a mess for both parties. It would hurt Dion because you'd have to trade Dak, and then you probably wouldn't be able to sign Parsons because you have to deal with the cap hit and all that nonsense. Yeah, it would just be a mess for both parties.
Yeah, it could, but again, there's not too many great candidates out there. If
No,
Jerry
no.
gets desperate enough,
Oh,
and you just
I
mentioned
think
it, they love making headlines.
I know. I think Jerry wants him. The question is does Dion want the Cowboys right now? And I think he would be stupid to want them right now.
Yeah, he is a Dallas Cowboy. He probably would love, knowing Dion, he would love to be the guy to end that Super Bowl drought. He'd
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
So there's probably a part of him that thinks that he could be the one, and especially he could do it with his son or both his sons.
Yeah.
I think it could be very possible, but I think it would have to be a desperate Dallas where Jerry throws him all the money that he wants to be the head coach here. So yeah, I don't know. The other thing is too, the last Mike Zimmer, the D coordinator this year for Dallas, he was on the staff last year at Colorado as one of the defensive analysts too. So you'd probably keep Zimmer and
You
Pat
keep
Shermer's
Zimmer, yeah.
OC at Colorado is an
Yeah.
NFL guy. So
Yeah.
he could bring those guys with him. Zimmer's already there, so that could be something.
He would have a pretty good staff, but the problem is would be the Shador element to it. They would probably trade because Shador was at the Mavericks game last night.
Yeah.
So it's the Shador element of it. They probably have to trade up for Shador, then trade Dak Prescott, have all that dead cap money, give up all that draft capital. And when you're competing with the Commanders and the Eagles, that's just not going to work.
No, it's gonna take a couple years there, and then how long does that until Jerry will want to pull the rug out of that one if it doesn't go well the first couple years? Because yeah, you mentioned it. Maybe you don't find Parsons, and that defense does need a little bit of work still. That old line's kind of, the old line's okay, and you saw Shador. Shador loves hanging on the football too long. So yeah, it would be very interesting. I think it would be headlining news. I kind of want to see how it work out, but yeah, I would think it'd have to be it would have to be Dallas desperation here in Dion, where Dion's probably making double the money he's making at Colorado to pack his bags and move back down to Dallas and try to get that organization another ring.
Exactly. He's gonna have to take double the money, and if it doesn't, it's probably not. It's probably not going to work out. Dion probably will stay in Colorado and coach the five-star quarterback that he has. But speaking of college football, we got the national championship on Monday night. But before we talk about that, we are going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock. We're going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEX Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEX Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEX Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All righty, so on Monday night, we got the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame got there, beating my Penn State Nittany Lions. A great game on Thursday, 27-24. And Ohio State got there by winning, probably winning by they had Texas game, their toughest game of the entire playoff. But Jack Sawyer was able to have that scoop and score, that strip, that sack, and the fumble recovery. He ran it in for a touchdown. Ohio State earns another trip to the national title game as they beat Texas to get there. So we'll first start, and I'll start with you, Justin, with this game. We'll start with Ohio State. What does Ohio State have to do to win the national title game? What do they have to do to win this game? To win their second national to be champions again, since for the first time since 2014.
For the Buckeyes, this one, be aggressive on offense. Get the ball to the guys on the outside, let them make the big plays because Notre Dame's run defense is pretty solid. And I remember last year after Ohio State beat Notre Dame, Lou Holtz called out Ryan Day saying they ain't tough. And we've seen what that had done with Harbaugh saying that. Does he try to get too cute and just run the football down Notre Dame's throat and just, now Notre Dame's so banged up the defensive line, they might have success. But I think in this one, Ohio State's got to just get back to being aggressive like they did the first two games and let Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka just go off and just have huge days. Number two is, Notre Dame doesn't have anybody on the offensive side, especially the receiver position that scares you. Put them in like obvious passing situations, get them in, third and longs and make Riley Leonard beat you with his arm because I think he's going to have a tough time winning football games if you do that. And number three for me is don't beat yourself. Like Henderson, that unsportsmanlike penalty there in second quarter. If that penalty doesn't happen there, they get the first down. They're driving again. They go 14-0, and that's it. Like I think Ohio State probably wins that game by 20 points or more. We saw some dumb penalties in that game from them, so stay away from the penalties and turnovers because I think if Ohio State scores 24 points, I don't think there's any chance Notre Dame offense at least is scoring that many. So I think Ohio State, for them, just don't beat yourself in this game.
Yeah, my first one is containing Jeremiah Love. Contain Jeremiah Love. Now, Georgia and Penn State did that too, but contain Jeremiah Love because if Notre Dame can't get their run game going, you said it earlier, if they're an obvious passing down, especially if this Ohio State pass rush has been awesome in the playoff, if they get into obvious passing downs, and Notre Dame's left tackles out too, so if they get into obvious passing downs, I think that Ohio State's in great shape, especially defensively in this game. I think they're in great shape defensively. They can get an obvious – if Notre Dame gets an obvious passing downs, they can get pressure on Riley Leonard. You saw in the first half against Penn State when Notre Dame was in those obvious pass downs, they really struggled in the first half. And they were in those third and longs. They really, really struggled in the first half against Penn State. So I think getting into Ohio State getting Notre Dame to obvious passing downs, I think is definitely crucial in this game. I think that's the top key to contain Jeremiah Love. Number 2, Will Howard needs to protect the ball. There can't be these you can't have these big turnovers in this game. And that happened against, and that was the biggest reason why they lost to Michigan, were the 2 big turnovers Will Howard had. He had the interception that led to a Michigan touchdown, and he had an interception in the red zone against Michigan. So Will Howard has got to protect the football. That is a major key in this game. Will Howard has got to protect the ball. That if he protects the ball, I think they have a great chance, because I do think that running game of Henderson and Junkins is going to get going. I think that running game for Ohio State is going to get going, because Notre Dame, you saw against Penn State, they had a lot of issues stopping the run. They haven't been a great run defense. That's been their weakness. Their pass defense is great. Their run defense is not. So they have to. I think that Jenkins and Henderson are going to have big games on the ground. So if Will Howard can protect the ball, I think they have a great chance to win. And then number 3, just continue to get pressure the way they have all postseason. 16 sacks the entire postseason. If they continue to get that kind of pressure, I just don't think there's any way they lose this game. Now, moving on to the Notre Dame side, Justin, what are your keys to Notre Dame's victory for Notre Dame to pull an upset over Ohio State?
For Notre Dame, they got to keep Ohio State's offense on the sideline. They got to shorten the game. They're gonna, again, I mentioned, if Ohio State scores 24 points, I don't think there's a chance Notre Dame's offense to put up more than that. So for them, they got to shorten this game, because they're not going to win a shootout. They got to win a game in the high teens, low 20s. And then kind of bouncing off that is they got to get Jeremiah Love, who's been banged up. I was surprised he had 11 carries, so he might be getting a little bit healthier. And then Price, their backup running back, who's had a really tough – he hasn't been able to get anything going so far in the playoffs. They need those 2 to have a big day on the ground. Because, and their left tackle, Jagasaw, who's originally supposed to be their left tackle to start the year, played a little bit in the Orange Bowl. They're reshuffling the old line, so I don't know if he's going to exactly play the left tackle, but he's going to be out there, which is going to help. But their run block has to be huge too. And my last point for Notre Dame is in the middle 8. So the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, Notre Dame this year is outscoring their opponents 148-17. So they got to win the middle 8. So if they could do that.
And that was huge against Penn State. They had that trade because Riley Leonard got hurt. The backup came in, Allegretti. He came in, drove them down to get a field goal. I think that turned the game around, because that gave Notre Dame momentum, because that next drive they got the ball and they scored.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that was a nice end of the half drive there, and that turned it around, because Notre Dame had a really nice job to open up the second half there, and they didn't look back there. So for Notre Dame too, it's win the middle 8 there, and that's because I think Ohio State outscored their opponents 80-42, so they've been pretty good at that too. But Notre Dame, that's a pretty good differential there. So if they can do that, they can kind of hang around there and be able to kind of keep that game close. So that's kind of my last point there for the Irish if they want a chance to win this football game here.
Mine, I'm going to say it's pretty obvious. Just need to get the running game going with Jeremiah Love. You got to get this run game going. If they can't, they're going to have a lot of problems in this game, because Ohio State's going to get pressure on them. If they can't if they can get the run game going, that'll negate some of the pressure that Ohio State can put on. But if they can't do that, they're going to be in big trouble in this. They're going to be in big trouble in this game. Number 2, contain Jeremiah Smith. Now, he didn't have a good game last week, but Texas has probably the best quarter in the country in Jahdae Barron. So they were able to contain Jeremiah Smith in that game. Notre Dame has got to double him. Because Notre Dame plays a lot of man coverage. And I think that if you're, I know Notre Dame secondary is good, but there is no corner on this Notre Dame team that could contain Jeremiah Smith. They're going to have to double Jeremiah Smith and let Tate and let Ed Buka beat him, and even let the running game. Even if they have to move the ball and have Ohio State kick field goals. That's I think Jeremiah Smith. We saw the first 2 games of the postseason how great he was. They're going to have to contain Jeremiah Smith. That is a must in this game. They're going to have to do that. And then number 3, Riley Leonard is going to have to be better than he was against Georgia. I know he was decent against Georgia, but he only threw for 88 yards. And then he was good. Listen, he threw 2 picks against Penn State, but he did respond. and he was able to get that touch, was able to drive them down the field and get a touchdown, and then he was able to get them in position after the interception for the game-winning field goal. But he did have 2 picks in that game, and those 2 picks led to 10 points. He cannot have that happen against Ohio State. He has got to be great in this game. Riley Leonard has got to be great. He's got to outplay Will Howard. Now, Will Howard doesn't have to have a great game for Ohio State to win because Ohio State definitely has the better team. But Riley Leonard does. Riley Leonard has to have a really good game for Notre Dame to win. So those are my 3 keys. Those are my 3 keys to the game. It's going to be the run game. Notre Dame's got to get that going with Jeremiah Love. They have to contain Jeremiah Smith, and Riley Leonard's going to have a great game. Now we get to our prediction in this game and how this game is going to go. And I think this is what's going to happen. I think Ohio State. I think Notre Dame's going to hang in there early. I think they'll be in it early. Will Howard will have some nerves, so I think Ohio State will get off to a slow start. I think maybe Notre Dame gets up early on in the game, and I think it might be close at halftime. It might be tied, or Notre Dame might even have the lead at halftime. But I think in the second half, Ohio State takes over. The run game of Henderson and Junkins takes over. I think they force they do contain that. I do think they will contain the run game of Leonard and force a turnover or 2. And I think Ohio State wins this, and I think they win it by double digits. I got Ohio State winning the national title. They're the best team. They were the best team in college football this year. I know at times they didn't show it, but they had the best roster. And I think in the playoff, they played like the best team. I got Ohio State winning this game 27-14 over Notre Dame. But Justin, can Marcus Freeman lead the Irish to their first national title since 1988?
No, I get the Buckeyes here as well, 28-17. Yeah, I think Ohio State, they have the better athletes, I think, in this game, where I do think second half they're going to be able to wear down Notre Dame. I just think credit to Notre Dame, because all year they've been battling through adversity. Jagus Owen, I mentioned before, was original left tackle for the year. He's been hurt all year. Was supposed to miss the season. They lost to Northern Illinois. Then they lost their best cornerback, and who's probably going to be first round pick in Benjamin Morris.
Morrison.
They've been so banged up.
Riley Mills on the defensive line.
Riley Mills, yep. They've been so banged up, defensive line, offensive line. Again, they were down at half against Penn State. They came out and they responded pretty quickly. They've been going through the adversity all year, and they're probably going to have to face it again. And maybe this team just knows, when it looks like it's over, they find a way to kind of prove you wrong and make a big play or, score a touchdown, come back, win a football game. They've done it all year. I just think this Ohio State team is just at a different level. And if you get the Ohio State team that we saw the first couple rounds, I don't think there's any chance that Ohio State loses this football game. I think Notre Dame can keep it close, but I think it's more as long as Ohio State doesn't beat themselves, they should win the football game here. And I think they do. And I think Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Knowles and that whole coach staff gets to win here. And in Ohio State, Jack Story or JTT have big days. Have a big day getting after Riley Leonard in that Notre Dame. And Riley Leonard throws a pick or 2 in this game.
Yeah, I think Ohio State. Yeah, they have the best. As I said, they have the best roster in college football. Yeah, they haven't shown that they've been the best team all year. But again, if they don't beat themselves here, they're the better football team. If they don't beat themselves, they should win this game. They definitely should win this game. And this has been a year where there really wasn't a great team outside of that. They have the best roster and they've been playing like the best team. There really hasn't been a great team in college football all year. There's been a lot of good teams. Georgia's been the SEC. We've said it all year. It was down. The SEC was down this year. Still, I think very easily the best conference in college football, but it was down this year. Georgia was a little bit down. I mean, Alabama, you knew with Nick Saban leaving, they'd be a little bit down. Texas, they were good, but a big reason why they got to the conference championship, they got to the conference semifinals because they had a pretty easy schedule in their first year. For an SEC schedule, that was a pretty easy schedule their first year in the SEC. So yeah, Ohio State they've just been the best. They've been the best team all year. They didn't play like the best team, but they have the best roster and they've been playing like the best team in the playoff. I knew at the beginning of that Rose Bowl, I thought in my mind, this is the best team. This is the best team right now, and they've proved it all postseason. So that's why I think Ohio State comes away with this win.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Brian Day said something interesting the other day. He said a lot of the guys this year were on snap counts most of the year. He didn't really explain why, but I think they were kind of holding some things in reserve for most of the year and kind of letting it all out now in the playoffs. And you've kind of seen it. That Oregon team wasn't great but like the way they blasted them and how quickly they got up on them, was impressive. The way they blasted Tennessee, coming off that Michigan game, they look phenomenal. So yeah, Ohio State should have had the best team all year, but they've kind of waited till the playoffs to really show it. And yeah, they've kind of been, a missile that's not being able to slow down here. And I think Notre Dame's gonna have a tough time with that. And you mentioned, there wasn't a great team, and I think that's gonna be continuing
with
theme
with NIL and the transfer portal. Yes.
Yeah, and revenue share is coming, so some of these teams are gonna have to, where these teams are it's gonna try to make the playing field a little bit more leveled. So we'll see how much of an impact that has. But yeah, so I think it's gonna be good for college football because you need more than 4 teams every year that have a chance to win because it does water it down. And yeah, the SEC was not, basketball wise, they're unbelievable. Yeah, but the SEC didn't have a bottom like the Big Ten did, and that's why I can't fully see the Big Ten had the best conference. But at the top of the elite, the Big Ten had the better teams than the SEC this year.
Yeah, it was close between all year long. It was close between the Big Ten and the SEC. It was close, and yeah, I mean Ohio State they had the best roster and they have a very good chance to win it. Now the big question is how much pressure is on Ryan Day going into this game? How much pressure is? Obviously, I think he's back, but I think a win here definitely changed the narrative about him. It's amazing what this 12-team playoff does. I mean, a month and a half ago, Ohio State was ready to run Ryan Day out of there. Now he's one game away from winning a national title, and he's gotten to a national championship game too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, he has. He's been close before, and yeah, I think for the national landscape and the national, it's like okay, he won the national championship. All's kind of forgiven. With the Ohio State fans, because with that Michigan loss still, because I know there's Ohio State fans still out there that they're mad and that they'd rather beat Michigan than win a national championship. And that's the thing. Like, I think he's going to be safe, win or lose this game. But, like, if he loses to Michigan again next year, this is going to be a topic discussion. So
yeah, but here's the thing about this Michigan thing. This 12-team playoff has changed this Michigan thing, okay? People got to stop worrying about this Michigan thing. That's old. They got to evolve. This Michigan, I hate Michigan, Ohio. These rivalries are with the 12-team playoff. They're not going to be this. I'm not saying they're not going to be, they're not going to be, they're not going to be the same or anything ever again. But they're not going to be close to as meaningful because of this 12-team playoff. So this Michigan thing has got to stop this Ohio State fan. If he wins this game, the Michigan loss is irrelevant. They need to Michigan and Ohio State that game. That win for Michigan is irrelevant, and that win for Michigan is a little bit relevant because it helps their program. But that loss for Ohio State is completely irrelevant if they win the national title.
Good luck telling Ohio State fans that.
Yeah, well, they need to evolve. I agree
a point. Yeah, I don't know if that fan base will. Again, there's some crazy ones like Alabama, Auburn. There's some crazy ones where it's like life or death. And
okay, this isn't 1997. This isn't 1997. Oh. If you could lose every game, but if you beat, Michigan, it's a successful season. Or you can win every game, but if you don't beat Michigan, it's not a successful season. We got to stop with that, okay? It's an entire season, and now there's a 12-team playoff where because usually, for years until this year, whoever won the Michigan-Ohio State was probably moving on, and the other team's season was over. That's not the case anymore. We got to stop with the whole, thing with saying that it's not a successful season because you didn't beat Michigan. They got to stop with that. That's over with now with the 12-team playoff.
No, I totally agree because they're also meaningful games, but yeah, it's not as impactful as it was 2 years ago where it's win or you're out and your season. You're not going to the Big Ten championship game. You're not going to play the Rose Bowl. You're not probably playing the 14 playoff and all that. So yeah, it's not. But I wonder too, because like Ohio State's they've never hit rock bottom, at least in the modern era of college football. Like they've always been a 10-win program. Outside of 2 years in the 90s, yeah. Like they've just never everybody else has had a rock bottom. And I don't know if that's part of it too, where they're so used to it, it's so engraved that they're gonna win 10, you're gonna beat Michigan every year, where it bugs them now. I don't know, but it's it's it is crazy to think about how consistent that program has been. But no, I agree. I just think that Michigan game means so much to that fan base, and can you even saw Sawyer like going to rip that flag out? Like that's a guy that's from Ohio, absolutely hated Michigan, and yeah, he's gonna win he might very much win a national championship. But in the back of the head, he's gonna be somebody that never like. I bet to him being an Ohio man, I never beat Michigan. Like I think a little bit of him's probably gonna be. I don't know.
That thought process, he's got to evolve. Who cares? He wins the national title. He wins the national title. Who cares if he didn't beat Michigan?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for some of those Ohio people and fan base, it's just if you don't beat Michigan, there's a little bit of a down. Even when you win a national championship, there's a little bit of, you're a little bit disappointed. But yeah, I agree nowadays, and that rivalry should be great. Again, now with Bryce Underwood coming in, and Ohio State's gonna be loaded, so
yeah,
it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in that rivalry. And one more thing before we wrap: Marcus Freeman. If he wins this game, is he a top 5 coach in college football? And I think looking at the fact that we lost the college football, lost Harbaugh and Saban, I think the fact he got Notre Dame into this spot, beat an SEC team by 2 scores to get to this spot, beat a good Penn State team to get to this spot. I think he already is. I think he already is a top coach in college football. A top 5 coach in college football. I know with NAL, it's a little bit easier for Notre Dame to win, but I think he's done as much as Brian Kelly has at Notre Dame in 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talk about Kelly, and you clown on him now because he couldn't win here, and Freeman comes in year 3, and Kelly, that thing's not going to end well down in the bayou there. So So and Freeman, he's still 39. And yeah, I think he's done a lot better as an in-game coach. And last week, I think he did a great job at halftime getting that team going and making some adjustments in game. And yeah, you go through it, and yeah, you lose Saban, and like Dabo was taking a step back as head coach. I know he's won national championship. Kirby's up there, but so yeah, I think Freeman would definitely be top 5 coach in the sport, and good for Notre Dame. They found their guy, and he beating his alma mater. He's 0-2 as a head coach Notre Dame, and
he was a linebacker. He was a linebacker for Ohio State when those teams that lost in the national title, Florida and LSU. And yes, he's 0-2. He lost in 22, and he lost in last year. But they played the last 2 years. But he was very close to that game last year. Very, very close to that game last year. But I do think Ohio State was a better team than they were last year, and I think Will Howard's a little bit of a better quarterback than Kyle McCord. But we'll see. It should be a great.
My Cord had an awesome year.
Yeah, he did. He did have an awesome year.
He was awesome this year.
Didn't have a great year at Ohio State last year, though.
No, he didn't. I think a lot of pressure got to him. He was outstanding this year for Syracuse.
He was.
It's tough because Will Howard's definitely a better runner than McCord was, but I think it's close. But hey, if Howard wins the national championship, I think you probably have to give him a nod because it's something McCord didn't do. But
yeah, he threw that pick at the end of the Michigan game last year, which led Michigan on to win it all.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that definitely changed some things.
Absolutely, I think it definitely did. But it should be a great national title game. Should be a great game between these 2 teams, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it should be a great game Monday night, and yeah, hopefully it's a good one. 2 great programs too, and I'll be rooting for Ohio State with Chip and Ryan. They both being New Hampshire guys.
I root for Ohio State.
So I'll see. Again, it would be cool to see Notre Dame get one because I know that fan base has been itching for one, and Freeman's done a great job, and he seems like a great guy. So he'll probably get one of these days. I think at Notre Dame. I think he'll end the drought at some point, but I don't think it'll be this year.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I don't like either team, so whoever wins for me. So I don't really like either team, but it should be a great game between both those teams on Monday night. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin Navrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about the conference championship games in the NFL, and we'll be recapping the national championship game. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.